My name is Claire Weston. I'm 35 years old. At 4:26 on a Sunday afternoon in October, while a vanilla candle burned beside a framed photo of my baby's footprints, my sister stood in my living room, placed both hands over her stomach, and announced that she was pregnant. Not quietly, not privately, not later. There, in the room where my son's memorial cards sat in a small stack on the coffee table. In the room where my husband had just finished telling everyone that our son Noah had lived for 17 minutes and changed our lives forever. In the room where my mother still had one hand pressed over her mouth because she had cried through the slideshow of hospital photos I almost had not been brave enough to show. My sister Emily smiled through tears that did not belong to the moment and said, "I know today has been so hard, but I think this family needs something hopeful." Hopeful. The word landed on the hardwood floor like glass. My living room was full of people who had come to remember a baby they barely got to meet. My aunts, my cousins, my mother's church friends, my husband's parents, 2 co-workers who had brought food without knowing what to say, and my grandmother's old neighbor, Mrs. Hill, who had knitted a tiny blue blanket for Noah after I told her he was a boy. Everyone turned toward Emily, my younger sister, 32 years old, perfectly curled blonde hair, soft pink dress, one hand resting just below her ribs, though she could not have been showing yet. Her husband, Tyler, stood beside her with the stunned expression of a man who had been given no warning, but was too committed to public loyalty to step away. My mother whispered, "Emily." Not sharply, not enough. Emily's smile trembled. "I wasn't going to say anything today," she said, which was a strange thing to announce while saying it. But standing here, surrounded by family, I just felt like maybe Noah would want us to remember that life goes on. Noah, my son's name in her mouth, used as decoration for her announcement. My body went cold from the inside outward. I was sitting on the edge of the sofa with my husband Daniel beside me. His hand tightened around mine, so suddenly I felt his wedding ring press against my finger. He did not speak. I could feel him shaking. On the mantel behind Emily was the little white urn we had chosen because I could not bear anything that looked like death. Beside it was a pair of knitted booties that had been too big for Noah's feet, a hospital bracelet, and one folded letter I had written to him the night before the memorial because mothers are supposed to write baby book entries, not goodbye notes. Emily looked around the room. "I'm 12 weeks, she said, voice brightening now that silence had not stopped her. "We just found out everything looks good." Everything looks good. I felt my lungs close. 3 months earlier, at my anatomy scan, everything had not looked good. 4 weeks later, doctors used words like severe complications, limited options, fetal distress, neonatal team, survival unlikely. 2 months after that, I held my son while he took tiny, impossible breaths against my chest, and then stopped. And now my sister was standing beside his memorial candle saying, "Everything looks good." Someone made a small sound. Maybe Aunt Linda. Maybe me. Then Emily laughed softly through her tears. "I know the timing is emotional, but I think Grandma would say every ending carries a beginning." That was when I stood. Not fast. Not dramatically. I stood carefully, because grief makes the body feel older than it is. Daniel stood with me. Emily looked at me then, finally noticing that I had not smiled, had not cried in the right way, had not opened my arms to her. "Claire?" she said, as if I were the one making the room uncomfortable. I looked at her, then at my mother, then at the mantel, where Noah's urn sat beneath the framed photo of his footprints. I did not say one word, because if I opened my mouth, I was afraid something would come out that I could never take back. I walked past my sister, past the untouched sympathy cake on the dining table, past the vase of white roses my mother had brought, and into the hallway. Daniel followed. Behind us, the room remained silent for 3 long seconds. Then my mother said, "Maybe everyone should get some coffee." Coffee. My baby's memorial had just been turned into a pregnancy announcement, and my mother reached for coffee. What Emily did not know was that our grandmother, Margaret Weston, had left one family heirloom specifically for my first child, not for the oldest grandchild, not for the first baby born healthy, not for whichever sister delivered the happier ending, my child. Grandma had written it down, signed it, dated it, placed it in her lawyer's file beside a small velvet box that held a gold baby bracelet engraved with the initials of 4 generations of Weston children. What Emily did not know was that she had already asked about that bracelet twice during my pregnancy. What my mother did not know was that Grandma had also written a second note addressed to me, telling me that if my child could not wear the bracelet, I should decide where it belonged, because grief does not cancel motherhood. And what nobody in that living room knew, while they poured coffee over the wreckage of my son's memorial, was that I had already brought the velvet box home from the lawyer's office that morning. It was in my bedroom, inside the top drawer of my dresser, wrapped in the blue silk scarf Grandma used to wear to church. Emily expected applause. I gave her silence. Then I made one quiet decision about the heirloom she thought grief would make me too weak to protect. This is that story. Before I tell you how my sister learned that a memorial is not a stage and a baby who lives 17 minutes still counts as a child, tell me where you are watching or listening from and what time it is there. I always wonder who hears stories like this while remembering the moment someone tried to use your pain as the backdrop for their joy. And if you connect with stories about women who were hurt, underestimated, erased, and quietly took their power back, like and subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. Some women do not scream at the memorial. Some women walk out with what was always theirs. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in a blue-gray house with a sloping backyard, a maple tree that dropped helicopters every spring, and a family that believed emotions should be honored as long as they belonged to the right person. My parents, Richard and Helen Weston, had 2 daughters, me first, Claire, then Emily, 3 years later. Our mother liked to say we were, quote, different flowers from the same garden, which sounded sweet until you realized one flower was watered and the other was expected to survive on being called sturdy. Emily was bright, pretty, emotional, and magnetic. She cried easily. She laughed loudly. She made ordinary events feel like scenes in a movie where she had already been cast as the lead. Teachers adored her. Aunts spoiled her. My mother worried over her moods like weather reports. I was quieter, practical, careful. The child who learned to read a room before entering it. The daughter who could be trusted to set the table, remember birthdays, calm Emily down and say, it's okay, even when it was not. When Emily spilled juice on my school project in 4th grade, Mom said, she feels terrible, Claire. Don't make it worse. When Emily borrowed my sweater without asking in high school and lost it at a party, Dad said, it's just a sweater. When Emily cried because I got into the college she wanted but did not apply to, Mom asked me not to mention acceptance letters for a while. I learned early that my joy could be postponed and my disappointment could be managed, but Emily's feelings required immediate family response. That pattern did not make Emily evil. It made her careless. There is a difference, though the damage can feel the same. Our grandmother, Margaret Weston, saw it more clearly than anyone. Grandma lived 20 minutes away in a small brick bungalow with lace curtains, a vegetable garden, and a sewing room that smelled like lavender sachets and machine oil. She was my father's mother, widowed before I was born, sharp as a needle, and twice as useful. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. One look from Grandma could make an adult man reconsider his sentence. She loved Emily, but she understood me. Every summer, I spent at least 2 weeks at her house. Emily usually came for 2 days, got bored, and asked to go home. I stayed. I helped weed the garden, sort buttons, wind bobbins, dust shelves, and polish the old wooden cradle in the guest room that Grandma said had held Weston babies going back to her own grandmother. The symbolic object in this story was the gold baby bracelet. It was tiny, delicate, and old, with a fine chain and a small oval plate where initials could be engraved. Grandma kept it in a dark green velvet box inside her sewing cabinet. She showed it to me when I was 12. This was your great-grandmother's, she said, placing it in my palm. It felt impossibly light. Did I wear it? For one photograph, she said, you screamed until your mother took it off. I laughed. Did Emily wear it? Grandma's mouth twitched. For half a photograph. The bracelet had been worn by babies in our family for generations, usually only for pictures, christenings, or a first holiday. It was not valuable enough to change anyone's life financially, but it carried something heavier than money, continuity. Proof that small lives entered the family and were named. Grandma told me, heirlooms are not about who deserves gold. They are about who understands memory. At 12, I nodded like I understood. At 35, after burying my baby, I finally did. Grandma became my safest place. When I went through my first heartbreak at 23, she made tea and said, "Some men leave because they are cowards. Try not to confuse that with your value." When I turned 30 and panicked because everyone around me seemed married, pregnant, or promoted, she said, "Life is not a boarding call. Stop listening for your group number." When I met Daniel at 31, she approved before anyone else did. Daniel was a civil engineer, steady, kind, and patient without being passive. He had dark hair, warm brown eyes, and the habit of thinking before speaking, which made my mother ask if he was shy and Grandma say, "No, he just doesn't spend words like pennies." I loved him for that. We married when I was 33 in a small ceremony at a botanical garden. Emily was my maid of honor and cried during her speech because she said she could not believe her big sister was finally getting her fairy tale. The finally stung, but I let it go because the day was happy and I had spent too many years letting small cuts bleed into good moments. Grandma gave me the blue silk scarf that day. "For something borrowed," she said. "It's yours. Then borrow it carefully." She died 11 months later. A stroke in her sleep, no long goodbye, no hospital vigil. Just a phone call from my father at 6 in the morning, and the sudden knowledge that the world had lost the person who knew how to say my name without needing anything from me. After the funeral, her lawyer read the family distribution. Most of it was simple. Her house had already been sold and money divided between my father and his sister. Jewelry went according to a list. Sewing machine to me. Recipe cards to my aunt. Garden tools to Dad. China to Emily because she had always admired it, though she had never washed a plate in Grandma's kitchen. Then the lawyer said, "There is one item to be held." He looked at me. "The Weston baby bracelet is to be held in trust by this office until the birth of Claire Weston's first child. Mrs. Weston left instructions regarding transfer at that time." Emily's face changed, just for a second. Then she smiled. "How sweet," she said. My mother glanced at her. I looked down at my hands. I had not been pregnant then. I was not even trying yet. Daniel and I had planned to wait a year. Grandma had known that. Still, she chose my future child. Later, Emily pulled me aside in the church hall. "Did you know about the bracelet?" "No." "It's kind of random that she picked you." I looked at her. "Is it?" She laughed lightly. "I don't mean it like that. I just mean I'm younger. I might have kids first." "Maybe." "And it's a family heirloom." "Yes." "So it should go to the first baby in the family, right?" "That's not what Grandma wrote." Her smile tightened. "Well, wills are weird." I did not argue. I had learned that arguing with Emily often turned into comforting Emily about how argument made her feel. 2 months later, she married Tyler in a vineyard ceremony with too many flowers and a photographer who had everyone pretend to laugh while walking. She wore Grandma's pearl earrings because Mom said it would be meaningful. I was happy for her, truly, though I noticed she mentioned Grandma in her vows and not once in the year after. Daniel and I started trying for a baby that winter. At first it was hopeful, then mathematical, then stressful, then heartbreaking. Negative tests, late periods that meant nothing, doctor appointments, blood work, ovulation strips, calendars. The strange intimacy of turning hope into timing. Emily knew we were trying, because my mother told her, though I had asked Mom not to. Emily responded by sending me fertility tea links and saying, "Maybe if you relax." I did not answer. After 10 months, I became pregnant. I found out on a rainy Tuesday morning before work. 2 pink lines. Faint, then unmistakable. I sat on the bathroom floor and whispered, "Noah?" Before I knew he was a boy. Before I knew anything except that someone had arrived. Daniel cried when I told him. Not pretty tears. Hands over face, shoulders shaking, relief and terror mixed together. We told my parents at 8 weeks. We told Emily at 10. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "I'm so happy for you," she said. I believed her. Mostly. At 12 weeks, we heard the heartbeat. At 16 weeks, we learned he was a boy. At 18 weeks, I called Grandma's lawyer to ask about the bracelet. He said it would be transferred after birth, per the instructions, and that Grandma had also left a sealed note for me. His voice was gentle. She was very particular about this. I smiled through tears. Grandma usually was. I planned Noah's room in soft blues and warm wood. Daniel painted the walls. My mother bought tiny clothes. My father assembled the crib incorrectly twice and blamed the instructions. Emily offered to host a baby shower, then forgot to book the restaurant until my mother handled it. I did not care. I was happy enough to be generous. Then came the anatomy scan. I remember the ultrasound room too clearly. Dim lights. Warm gel. The technician's polite face becoming too still. The way she stopped chatting. The way she said she needed to get the doctor. Daniel's hand finding mine. My own heartbeat loud in my ears. The doctor came in. More images. More measurements. Words carefully placed. Concern. Abnormality. Need further testing. Specialist. Maybe nothing. Maybe something serious. It was something serious. The next weeks became a corridor of appointments. Maternal fetal medicine. Fetal echocardiogram. Genetic counseling. Neonatology consult. More scans. More words. Some organs not developing correctly. Severe complications. High risk. Poor prognosis. People say time stops when you receive terrible news. It does not. It multiplies. Every minute becomes a place you have to survive. Emily was strange during that time. She cried when I told her. Then she began sending messages like, "Miracles happen, and don't let doctors steal your faith." When I asked her not to send inspirational videos, she said she was only trying to help. She told friends at church before I was ready because she wanted prayer coverage. People I barely knew started messaging me with stories about babies who survived impossible things, as if my fear needed evidence it was failing. My mother became anxious and overly cheerful. Dad became quiet. Daniel became my anchor. He listened. He drove. He sat beside me through every appointment. He did not tell me to be positive. He did not try to make grief more comfortable for himself. He just stayed. At 28 weeks, the doctor said Noah would likely not survive long after birth. I cannot describe that sentence properly. Language was not built for being told you may meet your child and lose him in the same hour. We made decisions no parents should have to make. Birth plan, comfort care, who would be present, photographs, chaplain, memory box. Whether we wanted resuscitation attempts that might hurt him without helping him. I learned that motherhood can include choosing not to let your baby suffer, just so other people can feel you fought hard enough. Noah was born at 32 weeks after his heartbeat began showing distress, and my body followed with complications of its own. October 3rd, 2:21 in the morning. 4 pounds, 2 ounces. Dark hair. Tiny fingers. Daniel's mouth. My chin. He made one small sound when they placed him on my chest. Not a cry exactly, more like a question. I held him skin to skin while Daniel wrapped one arm around both of us. The room was quiet except for monitors and my own whispered words. "Hi, Noah. Hi, sweetheart. Mommy's here." His eyes never opened. He breathed for 17 minutes. 17. I counted without meaning to. At 2:38, he stopped. The nurse placed her hand on my shoulder. No one said anything at first. Daniel's forehead was pressed against mine, and I felt his tears fall onto my cheek. That was my son's whole life outside my body. 17 minutes. But inside me, he had lived months. In my dreams, years. In my love, forever. We stayed with him for 6 hours. The hospital photographer took pictures. The nurse made ink footprints. They cut a lock of his hair. The chaplain prayed. My mother came in and sobbed so loudly Daniel had to guide her back out. My father kissed Noah's forehead and whispered, "I'm sorry, little man." Emily did not come because she said she did not think she could handle seeing him like that. I did not judge her then. Grief is strange. I thought she was weak, not cruel. The days after Noah's death were made of impossible tasks. Funeral home, cremation, death certificate, insurance calls, returning unopened baby items, deciding what to do with milk coming in for a baby who would never need it, waking at night because my body still thought he was there. Daniel slept beside me with one hand on my stomach for weeks, as if he too forgot and remembered in cycles. People brought food. People said terrible things kindly. Everything happens for a reason. At least you know you can get pregnant. God needed another angel. You're young. You can try again. I learned that silence would have been more merciful. Emily sent flowers with a card that said, "Noah's light will guide our family forward." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Forward to where? I did not know. The memorial was my idea. Not a funeral exactly. Noah had been cremated privately. I wanted a gathering at our home 1 month later, with photos, candles, food, and the people closest to us. I wanted to say his name out loud in a room where people would not look away. Daniel supported it. My mother worried it would be too hard. I said, "It is already too hard." Emily offered to help with decorations. I said no. She sounded hurt. I did not apologize. On the morning of the memorial, Daniel and I picked up the framed photo of Noah's footprints from the print shop. Then we stopped by Grandma's lawyer because he had called the day before and said the bracelet and note were ready. I almost postponed. Daniel said, "Maybe today is exactly when you should have it." The lawyer, Mr. Alden, met us in a small conference room with bookshelves and soft lamps. He placed the green velvet box on the table, along with a sealed envelope addressed in Grandma's handwriting. "For Claire, when her first child arrives." I cried before opening it. Mr. Alden stepped out. Daniel held my hand. I opened the envelope. "My dearest Claire, if you are reading this, your child has arrived, and I wish more than anything that I were there to see you become a mother. The bracelet belongs to your first child, not because of birth order in the family, but because I trust you to understand what it means. If your child wears it, take a picture for me in your heart. If your child cannot wear it, then you decide its future. Do not let anyone tell you that a short life is not a whole claim. A baby does not need years to belong. Love, Grandma." I folded the letter against my chest. Daniel cried silently beside me. Mr. Alden returned and explained that the bracelet was legally transferred to me as Noah's mother and heirloom custodian, with full discretion regarding its future if Noah could not wear it. Grandma had written everything properly. Of course she had. I took the box home. At home, before guests arrived, I opened it in our bedroom. The bracelet was smaller than I remembered. Gold. Delicate. Waiting. I held it beside Noah's hospital bracelet and understood exactly what Grandma meant. A baby does not need years to belong. I placed the velvet box in my dresser drawer, wrapped in Grandma's blue silk scarf. Then, guests arrived. The memorial began quietly. People hugged us. They looked at Noah's photos, some with tears, some with fear, some with tenderness. Daniel spoke first. He told everyone Noah had his hands, my chin, and more courage than any person he had ever known. He said, quote, "We wanted a lifetime. We got 17 minutes, but he was our son for every second." I thought I would collapse. Instead, I loved him more. Then I spoke. I read the letter I had written to Noah, not all of it. Just enough. I told him I was sorry the world could not hold him longer. I told him I would love him in every season. I told him his name would not be a secret. I told him that being his mother was still the greatest honor of my life. People cried. The candle burned. Mrs. Hill placed the knitted blue blanket near the urn. It was a sacred room. Not religious exactly. Sacred. Then Emily stood. At first, I thought she was going to say something about Noah. She did, but only as a bridge to herself. "I know today has been so hard," she said, "but I think this family needs something hopeful." And everything broke. After Daniel and I walked out, we went upstairs to our bedroom. I closed the door behind us. For a moment, we just stood there. Then Daniel sank onto the edge of the bed and covered his face. I had seen my husband cry many times in the past month, quietly, privately, in the shower, over Noah's photos, while folding baby clothes into a memory box. This was different. This was anger mixed with grief so tightly he could not separate them. "How could she?" he he whispered. I sat beside him. I don't know. He looked at me. I want everyone out. So do I. But neither of us moved. Downstairs, voices murmured, dishes clinked. Someone laughed once, quickly muffled. Life had resumed around the wound. I opened my dresser drawer. The blue silk scarf was there, the velvet box inside it. I took it out and placed it on the bed between us. Daniel looked at it. Is that? Yes. I opened the box. The gold bracelet caught the lamplight. Daniel touched the edge of the velvet, not the bracelet, as if even that was too much. Grandma knew, I said. He nodded. I handed him her letter. He read it. When he reached the line, "A baby does not need years to belong," he pressed the paper against his mouth. I said, "Emily will ask for it." He looked up. What? She asked when I was pregnant. She thought if she had the first healthy baby, it should go to her. His face hardened. She announced a pregnancy at our son's memorial. I know. No. I closed the box. She won't get it. That was the first clear decision I had made since Noah died. Not funeral home, not medical paperwork, not sympathy food. This decision was mine. The bracelet belonged to Noah. Not to possibility. Not to Emily's timing. Not to the family's desire to move quickly from grief to celebration. To Noah. We went downstairs 15 minutes later. Most people were still there, awkwardly eating cake they could barely swallow. Emily was seated on the sofa with Mom beside her. A few relatives were congratulating her in soft voices, as if whispering made it less offensive. Tyler stood near the window, pale and silent. When I entered, the room shifted. Emily looked at me with wet eyes. "Claire," she began, "I hope you know I didn't mean." I held up one hand. The room went quiet. I looked at everyone. "Thank you for coming to remember Noah. Daniel and I need rest now. We're going to end the gathering." My mother stood. "Honey." "Now." One word. My voice did not shake. People moved quickly after that. Coats. Purses. Whispered apologies. Avoiding Emily. Avoiding me. Avoiding the candle. Mrs. Hill hugged me and said into my ear, "Your son mattered." That nearly broke me. My father kissed my forehead and said nothing, which was wise. My mother tried to linger. I looked at her. Not tonight. She flinched. Emily stood near the door, one hand on her stomach again. "Claire, please." I wanted to bring hope. I looked at her. "No, you wanted to bring attention." Her face crumpled. "That's not fair." Today was Noah's. She whispered, "I'm pregnant." I heard. She recoiled like I had slapped her. Tyler took her arm gently. "Emily, we should go." For once, he did something useful. After everyone left, Daniel and I cleaned nothing. We blew out the candle. We took Noah's urn upstairs. We lay in bed fully clothed with the velvet box between us, like a tiny guard. I need to pause here for a second. If you have ever had someone try to rush your grief because their joy needed an audience, you know exactly what that memorial felt like. It was not that Claire hated her sister's pregnancy. It was that one child's beginning was used to cover another child's goodbye. If this story is hitting close to home, leave a comment and tell me what moment made you realize your grief deserved protection. And if you have not already, subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. The quiet part is over. The family fallout began before sunrise. My mother texted at 7:08. "Please call me. Emily is devastated. She feels like everyone hates her." I stared at the phone. Daniel read it over my shoulder and said, "No." I wrote, "I am not available to comfort Emily about what she did at my son's memorial." Mom replied, "She made a mistake, but she is pregnant and emotional." I wrote, "I was postpartum and grieving when she chose to announce it." No response. Then Aunt Linda texted, "I know yesterday was awkward, but babies are blessings. Try not to let grief make you bitter." Bitter. I blocked her for the day. Then Emily sent a long message. "Claire, I am sorry the timing hurt you. I truly thought the family needed hope. I wanted Noah's memorial to have a sense of life continuing. I wasn't trying to take away from him. I'm sad you think so little of me. This should be a joyful time for our family too." There were many words. None of them were responsibility. I replied with one sentence. Do not contact me until you understand that my son's memorial was not yours to balance. Then I muted her. For a week, I did not speak to anyone except Daniel, my therapist, and Mrs. Hill, who left soup on the porch with a note that said, "No need to answer the door." I remember. I did not know what she remembered. A miscarriage, maybe. A stillbirth. A grief from another generation never named. But her note mattered. On the 8th day, my father came over alone. That surprised me. Dad had always been gentle but avoidant. He loved us, but conflict made him retreat into garage projects, lawn care, or sudden errands. When I opened the door, he stood on the porch holding a small paper bag. "Cinnamon rolls," he said, "from that bakery you like." I stepped aside. He came in, removed his shoes without being asked, and sat at the kitchen table. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "Your mother is wrong." I looked at him. He stared at the paper bag. Emily was wrong. Your mother is trying to make everyone feel better, and that is making it worse. My throat tightened. Yes. He nodded. I should have said something at the memorial. Yes. He closed his eyes. I froze. I know. That's not an excuse. No. He looked at me then. I am sorry. The apology was simple. Specific enough. I accepted it with a nod because anything more would have made me cry. Then he asked, "Can you tell me about the bracelet?" That startled me. "How do you know?" "Mom mentioned it years ago. She said she had left something for your first child." I watched him carefully. "She left it for Noah." Dad nodded. "Good." "Not but Emily." "Not maybe later." "Good." He understood faster than my mother did. I went upstairs and brought down the velvet box and Grandma's letter. Dad washed his hands before touching either one. That made me love him in a way I had forgotten I could. He read Grandma's letter slowly. When he reached the line about a short life, he cried. "My mother never wasted words," he said. "No." He closed the letter carefully. "What will you do with it?" "I don't know yet, but Emily will not have it." Dad nodded. "She shouldn't." That sentence became a small shelter. The bracelet issue came sooner than I expected. 2 weeks after the memorial, Emily called from a number I had not muted. Tyler's phone. I answered because I was afraid something had happened. "Claire? What's wrong?" There was a pause. "Nothing. I just wanted to talk." I closed my eyes. "Then use your own phone." "You muted me." "Yes." She sighed. "I don't want this to become a big family divide." "It already is." "That's what I mean. I'm trying to fix it." "Are you?" She was quiet. Then she said, "Mom told me you picked up Grandma's bracelet." There it was. I felt my hand tighten around the phone. "Yes." "I know this is sensitive." "Do you?" "Claire." "What do you want, Emily?" Another pause. "When my baby is born, if it's a girl, I was wondering if maybe she could wear it for one photo. Not keep it. Just wear it. Grandma would want the tradition to continue." The room went silent around me. Not literally. But something in my body stopped hearing the refrigerator, the street, the house. A photo. Her baby. The bracelet my grandmother left for my son. 2 weeks after she had announced that baby at his memorial, I said, "No." She inhaled sharply. "You didn't even think about it." "I did." "When?" "The moment I realized you would ask." Her voice trembled. "That bracelet is a family heirloom." "Yes." "My baby is family." "Yes." "So you're punishing my child?" "No, I am honoring mine." She went quiet. I could hear her breathing. Then she said softly, "Noah didn't wear it." My vision blurred. I sat down before my legs gave out. "What did you just say?" She began crying immediately. "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did." "No, Claire, I'm saying—" "You are saying my son's claim ended because he died before a photo." She sobbed. "That's not fair." "No, Emily, it is exact." Tyler's voice appeared in the background. "Em, stop. Give me the phone." She refused. I said, "Do not ask again." Then I hung up. Daniel found me 5 minutes later sitting on the kitchen floor. I told him. He walked into the backyard and stayed there for 20 minutes because he did not want me to see how angry he was. When he came back in, his voice was steady. We need to make the bracelet legally untouchable. So we did. Mr. Alden connected us with an estate attorney named Patricia Lowell, who specialized in family heirlooms, trusts, and charitable memorial arrangements. She had kind eyes, blunt language, and no patience for sentimental manipulation. She reviewed Grandma's letter, the transfer document, and the language giving me discretion. "The bracelet is yours as custodian of Noah's heirloom," she said. "You can keep it, pass it later, donate it, place it in trust, or create a memorial instruction. I don't want it fought over." "Then document your decision." "What if I want it to remain Noah's?" She nodded. "Then we can make that clear." Together, Daniel and I created the Noah Daniel Weston Memorial Box. Not a charity, not a public foundation, a legal and personal record. The bracelet would remain with Noah's memory box during my lifetime. Upon my death, it would go to a local infant loss support organization with a letter allowing it to be displayed or used in remembrance ceremonies only if appropriate, never as a wearable family heirloom again. The tradition would end with Noah, not because his life was too short to continue it, but because his life was important enough to complete it. The box held the bracelet, his hospital bracelet, footprints, lock of hair, Grandma's letter, the blue silk scarf, our letter to him, and one photograph of Daniel and me holding him. I also wrote my own note. This bracelet belonged to Noah Daniel Weston, born October 3rd, held for 17 minutes, loved without end. No later birth replaces him. No living child inherits through his absence. This heirloom rests with him. I signed it, Daniel signed it, the attorney witnessed it. When the documents were complete, I felt something inside me settle. Not heal, settle. There is a difference. My mother found out because Emily told her I was turning Grandma's bracelet into a shrine. Mom came over uninvited, which she had never done before Noah died. Grief had made boundaries seem optional to her. I opened the door but did not move aside. She looked tired. "Claire, we need to talk." "No, we don't." "Honey, what do you want?" She lowered her voice. "Emily is beside herself." "Then Emily should sit down." Mom's eyes filled. "She is pregnant. This stress isn't good." I stared at her. "I buried my baby 4 weeks ago." Mom looked away. "I know." "Do you?" Her mouth trembled. "I'm trying to keep the family together." "No," I said. "You're trying to keep Emily from feeling consequences." She flinched. "That's cruel." "It is exact." She pressed her lips together. Grandma's bracelet was meant to continue through the family. Grandma left it to my child. And Noah is gone. The sentence left her mouth before she realized what it was. I saw the moment she hurt herself. Her face collapsed. I stepped back as if she had physically pushed me. "Claire," she whispered. "No. I didn't mean. No. I meant. I know what everyone means. Noah is gone, so make room. Noah is gone, so move on. Noah is gone, so let the next baby have the symbol. Noah is gone, so don't be bitter. Noah is gone, so let Emily be happy. Noah is gone, so erase the inconvenience of remembering him." Mom was crying now. I was not. "Not yet." I said, "My son is dead. He is not done being mine." Mom covered her mouth. I continued, "The bracelet stays with Noah. If you cannot respect that, you cannot come here." She whispered, "I'm sorry." "For what specifically?" She looked at me helplessly. "For saying he is gone like that. For trying to rush you. For defending Emily because I was afraid of her falling apart. For not protecting your memorial. For making you feel like Noah was less important because he didn't stay." That last sentence broke something open. I cried then, hard, ugly. My mother reached for me, then stopped, asked with her eyes. "For once," she asked. I let her hold me on the porch. Not inside, not yet. But on the porch. That was as much as I had. The public family correction happened at Thanksgiving. I did not attend. That was my boundary. Daniel and I went to a cabin 2 hours north, near a lake, with no family, no turkey, no forced gratitude. We brought soup, bread, a puzzle, Noah's memory box, and one small candle. We spent Thanksgiving morning walking under bare trees. At noon, we lit the candle and said his name, Noah Daniel Weston. At my parents' house, apparently, Emily tried to frame our absence as grief making me, quote, withdraw from family. My father corrected her. I know because he called me that evening and told me. He said the table had gone quiet when Emily said, I just wish Claire could be happy for us. This baby is part of the family too. My father set down his fork and said, your baby is not the issue. Your behavior at Noah's memorial is. Emily cried. Mom did not stop him. That was new. Dad continued. Claire does not owe us attendance while we are still learning to respect her grief. Aunt Linda apparently tried to say something about family healing. Mom said healing does not mean taking Noah's things. My father told me that part with quiet pride. I cried after hanging up. Not because everything was fixed, because someone had finally defended the truth in a room where I was not present. Emily's baby was born in May. A girl. Lily Grace. I found out by text from my father, who asked first whether I wanted updates. I said yes, basic ones. Birth is not a crime. A baby is not responsible for the room into which adults carry their selfishness. Lily was healthy. 7 pounds, 8 ounces. Emily was healthy too. I was relieved. And devastated. Both. That is how grief works. It does not make you cruel. It makes every happy thing complicated. Emily sent a photo 2 days later, just Lily's face, wrapped in a white blanket. No bracelet, no caption asking for anything, just, this is Lily. I know things are not okay between us, but I wanted you to know she arrived safely. I stared at the photo. She was beautiful. Tiny mouth. Dark hair. Serious little forehead. I wrote back. I'm glad she is safe. It was not warm. It was honest. A month later, Emily asked if we could meet. I said no. Then I said, write what you want to say. She did. Her letter arrived in June. Not a text. A real letter. Claire. I have started and deleted this so many times because everything I write sounds too small compared to what I did. I am sorry I announced my pregnancy at Noah's memorial. I knew before I said it that it was not the right time. I told myself the family needed hope, but the truth is I wanted to stop feeling invisible in a room full of your grief. That is awful to admit. I am admitting it because anything else is another lie. I am sorry I used Noah's name to justify it. I am sorry I asked for the bracelet. I am especially sorry I said he didn't wear it. I think about that sentence every day. It was cruel. I wanted the heirloom and I let myself treat your son like an obstacle. He was not. He is your child. He is part of our family. I did not honor him. Lily will know she had a cousin named Noah. I do not expect forgiveness. I just want to stop pretending I only made a timing mistake. Emily. I read it twice. Then I gave it to Daniel. He read it silently, jaw tight. What do you think? I asked. I think it's the first thing she said that isn't garbage. That was harsh. It was also true. I put the letter in a folder. Not Noah's box, a different folder. Emily's apology did not belong beside his bracelet yet. Maybe, someday, not then. I wrote back 3 weeks later, Emily. Thank you for naming what you did clearly. I am not ready for a relationship with you. I am not ready to meet Lily. I am glad she is safe and loved. I need space without pressure, updates, or requests. Noah's bracelet will remain with him permanently. That subject is closed, Claire. She replied, I understand. For once, she did not add more. A year after Noah's birth, Daniel and I held a small remembrance at the lake cabin. Just us, my parents, Daniel's parents, and Mrs. Hill. I did not invite Emily. That choice hurt, but peace sometimes requires fewer chairs. We placed flowers in the water, not because I believed Noah was there, but because grief needs gestures or it hardens. My mother read a poem. My father said Noah's name without crying until the second syllable. Daniel held my hand. Mrs. Hill brought the blue blanket she had knitted and told us, for the first time, that she had lost a daughter in 1978, born too early, never photographed, rarely mentioned after the funeral because people believed silence was kindness. "It wasn't," she said. "No, it was not." After the remembrance, I opened Noah's memory box in the cabin. The bracelet rested beside Grandma's letter. For the first time, I did not feel only pain when I looked at it. I felt protection. That bracelet had become a boundary made of gold. Small, delicate, unbreakable. 2 years have passed now. Daniel and I are still together, though grief changed us. It made us quieter for a while, then more honest. We tried again for a baby after long conversations, medical counseling, fear, and therapy. That story is still ours, unfinished, and I will not tie it into a neat bow, because not every wound is healed by another child. Noah remains our firstborn, not our almost, not our loss only, our son. His urn sits on a shelf in our bedroom now, not hidden, not displayed for visitors. His memory box is in the cedar chest at the foot of our bed. The gold bracelet stays inside, wrapped in Grandma's blue silk scarf. Sometimes, on October 3rd, I open the box and touch the edge of the velvet. I never put the bracelet on another child. I never will. Emily and I are polite from a distance. She sends one message on Noah's birthday each year. "Thinking of Noah today." That is all. No Lily pictures attached, no updates, no request for comfort, just his name. I answer, "Thank you. Maybe someday there will be more, maybe not." Lily is nearly 2 now. I have seen her twice at family gatherings. She is bright, curious, and innocent. I brought her a book for Christmas and watched her clap when my father made a silly noise. I did not punish her for her mother's choices. I also did not let anyone place her in the space Noah occupies. That distinction saved me. My mother has changed the most, not perfectly. She still slips into managing everyone's feelings. But now, when Emily becomes emotional, Mom no longer automatically sacrifices the nearest boundary to calm her. She asks, "What are you responsible for here?" It is a sentence I never heard growing up. It is late. It still matters. Dad visits more often alone. He brings cinnamon rolls. He says Noah's name. Daniel's parents planted a tree in their backyard for him. A small dogwood. In spring, when it blooms, my mother-in-law sends one photo, no caption. Just flowers. That is enough. The final lesson of this story is not that joy should never exist beside grief. Life is cruel and beautiful at the same time. Babies are born while other babies are mourned. People celebrate while someone else is breaking. That is not betrayal by itself. The betrayal is when someone takes a sacred moment and makes it serve them. When they say your grief needs their hope. When they use your child's name to soften their selfishness. When they look at an heirloom meant for your baby and decide death makes it available. My sister announced her pregnancy at my baby's memorial. I walked out with the only family heirloom. And when she asked for the gold bracelet, when my mother tried to turn my son's absence into family convenience, when everyone wanted the tradition to move forward as if Noah had not been here, I made the quietest decision of my life. The bracelet stayed with him, because he was born, because he lived, because he was loved, because 17 minutes is not nothing, because a baby does not need years to belong. Thank you for staying with me through this story. I know some of you have had your grief rushed, minimized, compared, or used as a backdrop for someone else's announcement. If Claire's story reached you, I hope you remember that your loss does not have to become someone else's lesson in hope. You are allowed to protect sacred moments. You are allowed to keep what was meant for your child. You are allowed to say that a short life still has a whole place in the family. Subscribe to Ultimate Revenge for more stories about quiet women, family betrayal, silent comebacks, and the truth that finally protects what love refuses to surrender. So tell me, if your sister announced her pregnancy at your baby's memorial and then expected the heirloom your grandmother left for your child, would you try to keep the peace? Or would you walk out with what belonged to your baby?